Into a video today on a couple of different topics. One of them is the idea of what it means to have an awesome life and what is an awesome life to you as far as your own evolution. Some people would call that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Other people would call that your paradigm. Other people would call that your level of consciousness, whatever. So what is an awesome life to you along those lines? Another thing that we're going to be talking about is what it means to have a very, very impactful life. And I'm going to be going into some really, really hardcore secrets and things that have taken me decades to figure out. The things that I'm going to be sharing here come through a lot of pain, come through a lot of trial and error, come through a lot of disappointment, heartbreak, frustration, bankruptcy, chaos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So everything that I teach you is straight from the trenches, and we're going to be talking about what it means to live an awesome life. Now, as I crack into this, just want to say this very, very briefly, we're going to be shooting into an incredible 2-full-day event in San Diego. If you go to www.selfhelpfreetour.com, it's going to be myself and Julian running a full 2-day event. It's a full 2 days. It's a proper event. I would urge you to fly in for it. It's in San Diego this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then in addition to that, 2 weeks later on December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we're going to be running a full 3-day event in Los Angeles. So my recommendation to you is that if you're in anywhere in California, I don't care if it's San Francisco, Las Vegas, Phoenix, wherever it is, I'd recommend that you actually drive in for both events. Both events will be completely different. They'll cover almost nothing similar at all. They're both going to be absolutely off the hook. And then if you're flying in, okay, if you're somebody that wants to fly in, I'd recommend that you do Los Angeles because that's a full 3-day event. So that's going to be probably the better one to fly in for. LA is going to be massive. It's going to be a lot of people there. It's going to be really exciting. Me, Juliet, and the team are going to be there. We're going to be running this thing into the dirt late into the night, giving a lot of passion, a lot of focus on the topic of health, wealth, relationship, and higher purpose. A lot of those OG secrets, a lot of the secrets that we've taught over the years in exercise format. There's a ton of energy in the room. You got to fly in for one of these things. Okay, so again, www.selfhelpfreetour.com. San Diego coming up, Los Angeles coming up. Fly in for it. Now, if for any reason you can't fly in, okay, for any reason you're unable to fly in, because I get it that not everybody can fly in, even though you really just should, and we'll talk even in this video about ways that you can improve your life so that you could fly in for something like this, then the next best step would be to go to www.higherpurposeprogram.com, okay? www.higherpurposeprogram.com. And what I do in there is I lay out the very, very best lessons from the free events that I never, ever post on YouTube. These are the kind of videos that I cannot post on YouTube that are most appropriate for the course itself behind that wall. So if you want to go behind the wall completely for free and see the very, very best secrets, some of those OG secrets, some of those really, really deep secrets that is kind of like hidden knowledge about what it is that we teach, higherpurposeprogram.com will cover that in depth. If there's a couple hundred people watching this, there needs to be a couple hundred people that jumped in there. If there's 10 or 15,000 people that watch this live by the time that it's run its little course, there needs to be 10 or 15,000 people that saw Higher Purpose Program. Higher Purpose Program is absolutely mind-blowing. You need to be in there. So your two options are either fly in, San Diego coming up, LA coming up, or do Higher Purpose Program. By the way, we're also going to be having free events in New York, Washington, Philadelphia, Boston, Seattle, San Francisco, Miami, all over the country, and my team doing them all over the world. So I'd still recommend that no matter what city that you're in, you still wind up going to the Self Help Free Tour page and get signed up early and grab your spot early. There's a lot of advantages to signing up early. And then in addition, make sure that you grab that. Okay, so let's go into today's video. We're also gonna be running a clip in today's video. My buddy's about to load it up in just a sec. We did a clip last time about the movie The Gray. So we're gonna be going to a clip this time, and it's gonna be about relationships. And it's gonna be on the topic of where you're at in your development. I'm hoping that I can see this on the TV so that I can review it as we play it. So I can sort of I'm gonna be making some live commentary on this. This is going to be something that I think is going to be very eye-opening to you as far as your personal relationships, and also something that will be eye-opening to you as far as what you think is kind of your best bet and your best step forward based on where you are at. Okay, so this first clip that we're going to be shooting into right now, it's with two of my favorite creators. One of them is Chelsea Kawai. You might know her as a previous girlfriend of a guy named Sam Kolder. Sam Kolder does some of the best travel videos in the world. His girlfriend, who is equally talented and really puts out at the exact same level, high-level videos in her own right, they were kind of this power couple back in the day. And really, both of them individually have such incredible talent. And so if you've ever seen Sam Kolder, if you've ever seen Chelsea, she goes by the name Chelsea Kawhi. They have these incredible travel videos that are super inspiring. They definitely inspired me. And then there's a guy who's actually doing a podcast who I also think is very inspiring now, who also I think is really, really smart and has incredible content. I don't think I'm pronouncing his name properly, but it's Andre Dukum. It's like D-U-Q-U-M, Andre Dukum. So I'm just going to show a quick little clip from them, okay? And then basically I'm going to do a little bit of commentary on things that I would kind of relate to you and sort of what I take out of it, even though what I take out of it is not necessarily objective, it's just my lens. But I'm going to share and some things that you might find to be useful in your life. So let's shoot into it, and I'll come back and we'll do a little bit of commentary.
There was definitely a time in my life where I didn't feel like I knew my purpose or had a purpose. I was making more money than I ever thought I would. I was traveling the world. I was living this very, very beautiful lifestyle. And there wasn't this innate sense of satisfaction or deep purpose to reach that pinnacle and realize, wow, this is amazing, but it also isn't it. Those peak experiences are just that, they're peak experiences. And what is fulfilling is being able to find joy in the most granular, mundane, funny, silly moments.
I love the quote, success is the progressive.
I'll come back on Andre's bit in a second. So if you guys have seen Chelsea's videos, they're unbelievable. I mean, these are videos that are, you've got to see them to believe them. The things that she's doing and the things that she's accomplishing. This is one of the most high value women on the planet. She's killing it. And so when you're watching her commentary there, I definitely resonate with that, what it is that she's dealing with. She's basically describing, from what I can tell, I could be wrong on this. You'd have to ask her. I'm giving my lens and my interpretation. But basically what you're seeing is somebody who's traveling the world. She has a boyfriend that she's super in love with at the time. And she's living a life that basically is people's dreams. And we've seen this in a number of different cases of people that are traveling the world and kind of, appear to have it all. Another couple that had that going for them was Jay Alvarez and Alexis Ren. You might have seen them. And, you'll see, it could be somebody like a Dan Bilzerian or a Hugh Hefner. It could be anybody. It could be maybe you're watching my stuff. And you see people that are traveling the world and they're doing all these awesome things. But then you also see that oftentimes they come back later and they express that they've been in a state of stress. So this really fascinates me, this idea, because we're teaching you personal development in this, in these videos, right? In this video, in this channel. And so, if you're somebody who's broke or if you're somebody who's making, 50 or 100K a year and you want to make a lot more, your vision is to make your life look like Sam Kolder's life. I mean, perhaps, right? Certainly mine is. You could definitely do a lot worse than Sam Kolder's life, right? It's ridiculous, amazing. So the goal is to make your life look like Sam Kolder's life. Your goal is to make your life look like Chelsea Kawhi's life. But then you hear about some of these reports later and it's like, oh, maybe they're unhappy, maybe they had friction. And then you think to yourself, well, why couldn't they get it together? Why does their life look that good? And they couldn't get on the same page and they couldn't get it together. And I think there's a number of different reasons. I'm going to make two suggestions of just, through my own lens. And one would be a bit of a mild critique. But then another would be something that I think would show a lot of understanding. The mild critique that I would give is that sometimes I do believe that people have success barriers. And I've just seen this in my own life to where, I'll bring somebody into my own life and I really try to put them in a position to have the perfect life. And I'll see that their mind is just not quite ready to absorb that yet. And initially it seems exciting, but their mind's not able to absorb it. So sometimes what I've seen people do is they go back to a simpler life and then they'll speak positively about a simpler life. But if I'm being honest, and I have an understanding of it, and I'm going to explain why I'm understanding of it in a second, but a part of me, if I was just being honest, feels like, why back down? For example, finding joy in these granular experiences, why not do that while living a dream life, right? Why not focus on that while living a dream life? So that's the part that I view a little bit as a success barrier, okay? And I've had to confront that myself, which is like, I've had my moments where I'm living a dream life and I'm kind of unhappy or miserable. But what I try to do is not to back down from that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why, okay? I'm going to talk a little bit about why I don't back down from it. Usually to build that dream life requires you to build some kind of a machine that produces income, right? And typically in conversations about, real happiness, we remove income out of the equation to an extent because we don't want to sort of taint that or pollute it with money. But I've had it to where I've been rich and I've had it to where I've been broke. And I can tell you that being broke also sucks. And so it's one of these things where once you unwire that machine that you've spent, could be a year building, but it could be 5 years building. It could be 10 years building. In my case, it could be 20 years building. And then you go in and throw a bunch of monkey wrenches into that machine and that machine explodes. You don't just get to wake up the next day and the machine is still there. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you're getting into income levels, past $100,000, if you're getting into $500,000 or $1 million, or your burn rate is a couple $1 million, you don't just get to have a personal crisis, go home, look at the little granular things, get happy with that, and then boom, when you feel like it, then all your clients just come flooding back and all of your employees jump back on magically and your margins make sense and you have the capital to start it back and yada, 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 right? So in my own case, I've certainly had moments where I'm like, man, I'm freaking miserable. I have this apparently dream life, but I'm hating life right now. But knowing that I can't just snap my fingers and rebuild that machine on a dime, I understand that it takes time and effort. I try to go back to gratitude for what it is that I do have, and then I try to get back to enjoying those granular things like Chelsea mentioned while building that. So, I could imagine what it might have been like, say, for her and Sam. They're out on the road. Sam, if I was just speculating, I wasn't there. I'm purely speculating here. Probably somebody who's extremely ambitious. Remember that, when you're dealing with the kind of success that somebody like Sam Calder has, Sam is a smart enough guy to put on a face of humility and to be chill. But just like Tom Brady, beneath that face of humility and chill, there's a real competitor in there. I would have to imagine. I can't speak for the guy. I can speak for myself. I think Tom Brady, that's definitely the case. But, there's a raw competitor in there, right? You don't get to be somebody who's world class or the best in the world or the GOAT. And Sam is kind of the GOAT for his genre in photography and stuff. You don't get to be like that by, being this highly passive, meek person. You get like that by being aggressive and competitive. But unfortunately, what can happen is, let's say that you're trying to create the budget and you're trying to create the reality where you're traveling the world and you're taking on high-end clients and you're producing this high-level content. Well, if we're being honest, what's one of the first things that's probably going to fall by the wayside? Maybe those little granular conversations, maybe those little beautiful moments, right? And so what I've experienced in my own life, and I think, Sam might have experienced this, I'm purely speculating, is that, I can definitely say in my own life that I've kind of crossed that point where granular moments or, a little bit of small talk does a lot for me. And part of me hates that, right? Part of me hates that because that is what it means to be human. And so obviously you don't want to dehumanize yourself just in the pursuit of raw ambition. But at the same time, what can sometimes happen is that you could be at a point in your development where you're like, look, I've had a bunch of small talk. I've walked down the street and looked at the trees. I've, made a cute little joke with my partner. I've done that. It's beautiful. I love that. I never want to stop, but I kind of want to go do this other stuff too. And sometimes to get to the point where, to do those other things, there's certain financial requirements and there's a certain potency and a certain effort that has to happen for you to be able to generate those opportunities, right? Those, the funds that you could have to generate in order to produce that could be really, really extreme. It could be a ton of money, a ton of responsibility, a ton of pressure. But then the downside is that, again, a lot of those beautiful moments that could be very important to somebody, fall by the wayside. So that's one thing that I've seen. And so I think what happens there is it kind of depends on someone's own point in their evolution. So where, are you able to achieve alignment with another person as far as your point in evolution and their point in evolution, right? And so, what can sometimes happen in relationships, for example, is that you're maybe somebody who you're easily in your frame, right? You've come into your own confidence. You don't really need another person that much. You're excited to have another person come on the journey, but you don't need it. Even though you think it's awesome, but you don't need it. And you appreciate it, but you don't need it. And then, the other person might be still finding their confidence, okay? They're finding their own confidence. And so what winds up happening is that you've already found your confidence. You've already had those granular moments. You want to go do things that are more ambitious or more challenging because you don't derive a lot of satisfaction, but somebody else might be coming into a place where they're trying to find their frame. They're trying to find the beauty in those small moments. And so now they're being dragged around in this perfect life, but they're not enjoying those small moments. They are not satisfied in their own frame. And then as a result of that, they're kind of cut off from their own happiness because they're not finding happiness in the small moments. And then now they're relying on their partner as an example, or it could be a coworker or somebody who you're working with or a friend. And now they're kind of looking to that person for validation a lot. But then that person is focused on their ambition. They're not validating the person properly. That person starts to get upset. They create arguments, creates friction and fights and so on and so forth. Maybe if that other person's not in their frame, they find that to be terrifying, et cetera, et cetera. And so you have a lack of alignment because you have two different people in two different parts of their lives, right? Now, the person who's generating a lot of those opportunities is like, I had to work my whole life to build this. Why can't you enjoy it? I've given blood, sweat, and tears to this. But the other person's not able to enjoy it because they haven't established their own frame, and they have not, and they're not, at a point where they can enjoy life yet. So what they need to do is they need to probably leave that situation and have time to themselves. They need to find their own frame, find their own confidence outside of that relationship, and they need to get back to enjoying life, even in the little things. And then at that point, if they want to go rebuild something, they have that opportunity. Although, to be fair, and I'm going to be honest about this, sometimes you don't always get to rebuild it. It does take a certain amount of luck. It takes a certain amount of good fortune. It takes... There's luck components, there's good fortune components, there's brutally hard work components. So sometimes you don't get to get back to that peak of the mountain. So you kind of do take your risks when you say, okay, I just want time to myself. But other times you can pull it off, right? So, somebody like my friend Elliot, if you know Elliot Hulse, he at one point took like a year away from YouTube, and he was able to come back. I don't know if he achieved the exact same popularity when he came back or not. I'd have to ask him, I'm not sure, but he certainly has a lot of popularity and he came back. And so he was able to pull that off. Other people, you let that machine wind down and you might never wind it back up. So it's a little bit of a tricky one. But let's go into Andre's response. I'd like to talk a little bit about his response as well. So we can pop into that and then I'll give some commentary on some things that he said, because a lot of those things also resonated with me. Let's do it.
There was definitely a time in silly moments.
I love the quote, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And so it's like, what is this worthy ideal you've deemed in your life that you want to go after? And the progressive realization of it, that success is it's being on the journey. It's not in the actual moment of attaining it, because that's just one moment. And then there's going to be another moment after that. And
It's that event horizon that keeps getting pushed out and pushed out.
And the end of the horizon is death. If you want to get to the end of your life, okay, then you have no more life. Coming back into this moment, finding what are those things that do make you enthusiastic about the life you're living, and don't think it needs to happen overnight. It's always a journey, but it does take time for that to blossom.
All right. So a couple comments on that. By the way, as I go into the comments on that, if you're just getting onto this video, we have San Diego coming up, we have LA coming up, free events, and we have free events all over the world. So make sure that you click on www.selfhelpfreetour.com, get into the free event. And if you can't fly in for a free event, I'd recommend that you fly in. LA especially is going to be 3 full days, but any of them are great. Basically, you have higherpurposeprogram.com, which I'm pointing at right here on the little, it's right here, higherpurposeprogram.com. You need to be inside of that. It is unfreaking believable, that course. I laid out that course for everything that I can't post here on YouTube. So I'd recommend that you get into that course right now. That'll get you all the best insight that you would have got at the free event if you can't fly in. But then again, if you fly into the free event, you meet me in person, you get a ton of content that's not in that course, and there's a ton of networking and a ton of energy in the room. Okay. So if you look at what Andre talked about there, that's something that I also resonate with. He's talking about how the horizon keeps getting pushed a little bit further and further back. And this was something that I definitely had to absorb, for myself a couple years ago. I hit 40 and I looked at my life and I said to myself, you know what, I'm not actually happy. And it's not that I'm not appreciative for what I've experienced, but what does it mean to start being happy right now? So what I did that was pretty extreme was I said that I don't care if I go bankrupt. I don't care if I lose every friendship and relationship that I have. I don't care if I lose my girlfriend, to be honest. I don't care if I lose my life. I'm just like, I don't care if this kills me. I hit a point where I'm like, I don't care if this kills me. I am going to figure out what it is that makes me excited, and I'm going to go do it. And I had to get to that point because, frankly, I have so many obligations to my family, relationships, business, everything. And it's just that the infringement on your time, it really just never stops. And because the reason why that is because you create this web for yourself, whether that's your bills or your rent, your car, your friends, your work, whatever. But it's like that movie Fight Club where it talks about how the things that you own wind up owning you. And so you build this huge machine. So the machine that I built was pretty awesome. I've lived in a bunch of different mansions, done a lot of sick parties, go out to the best clubs, date a lot of amazing people, have a lot of amazing friends, do seminars, do a lot of creative work, right? So that was something that I built, and that is probably a better life than 99% of people or more, which is great. But I could still see that I was continually in this mode of kind of being a cog in the machine, being a part of the establishment, being a part of this sort of sick satanic entertainment system. And so I realized I got to break out of that. I just have to do it. And so what I did was I started going into the outdoors. And I started going into the outdoors about 250, almost 300 days a year. Now, one of the things that really annoys me when I do this is that people never really pause to consider the damage that this does to do something like that, right? Nobody ever it's always just this BS from people when you talk about this. They're like, "Oh my God, that's so cool. It must have been like super fun." And it's like, what world do you live in where being in nature 300 days a year and being at home working 60 days a year is realistic, okay? Like, I skied every major ski resort almost in the whole country. I went to almost every major national park. How does that even happen? Okay? But notice that because I have a YouTube channel, some dorky little YouTube channel, that people will look at that and they will sort of try to frame it at, like, first of all, I'm not a celebrity. I'm like the lowest level celebrity possible. But they'll try to frame it in their mind and dismiss it in their mind like, oh, he's a celebrity, even though I'm a dorky YouTube celebrity that's not even that big. But they'll frame it as, oh, he's a celebrity, and that's how he did it. There's this separation between me and him, and then he just went and gallivanted around, and it was just this easy thing that he did, and he just did that, right? It was like, I remember like when I would tell people this, and they'd be like, I bet you made more money than ever by doing that because you were happy. Right? Like, because they read the book The Secret one too many times. They think that I manifested millions of dollars to cover that bill by being happy in a forest, right? This is how dumb the personal growth industry has become, that they literally believe, they're like, you know how you could make more money? Just go in the forest and be in a good mood and you'll manifest millions of dollars, right? The dumbest nonsense on the planet. So dumb that it defies reality, okay? So, and there's even something here, which is a comment that I appreciate, but I'm going to even show the level of that's mistaken. He worked 17 hours a day for 2 decades. Not many people could do that, and he's built that. Even then, even with 2 decades of hustle, it was really, really stressful. It was really, really hard. It blew a lot of stuff up. It made problems. It was bad. But what I did was, I said to myself, this is just really hard to do. I'm determined to do it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to do this. And then as things blow up, I am going to retroactively fix them. Okay? And if that means that I lose my girlfriend, I'll get another girlfriend. If that means that my team gets mad at me, I'll go bankrupt and I'll rebuild something if it takes me 5 freaking years. That means that if I get fat, I'll lose the weight later, okay? But whatever the case, I just said I'm doing this no matter what. This is happening, okay? I don't care if this kills me, okay? In fact, I went into skiing. I didn't even know what I'm doing on a ski hill, and I blew out my ACL. I'm going to have to do surgery on that. So I'm not even necessarily recommending that you do this. I'm not even saying to do it. I'm not giving you instructions here. It's not instructional. I'm just saying what I did because I could see that the web was so tight, I was never going to get out. It was never going to happen. I was never, ever, ever going to get out. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about what it is that I learned in the process of doing this. Like, why did I feel so compelled to go and do this? I felt compelled to do this for exactly the reason that Andre is talking about here. I could just see it. I realized that I'm getting older Every year is passing. I don't want to just be part of the sick system anymore. I want to go find out what it means to really live. That's what I wanted to know. What does it mean to really live? Now, let me talk to you a little bit about what I discovered. First thing I discovered is the business goes in total chaos. Okay? Chaos beyond chaos, beyond chaos, beyond chaos. And so now what's happening is you're forced to build a business that isn't just you as this highly paid employee, but rather it's you actually being forced to build some kind of a system that will run itself so that you can go do what you want to do. That was one component of what it was that I did, okay? And that was incredibly difficult because I have an addiction to being needed, okay? That's like a little bit of codependency. I like to be needed. It's like a pathology that I probably have and that has been toxic for some people who are around me. So I had to realize, like, stop making yourself need to be needed. So that was one of them that I had to go through. The other one that I realized is that even when you're on your dream vacation, or even when you're on, living your dream life, because I lived a life that was like a 60% version of like Chelsea Kawhi and Sam Coulter kind of thing. I think they were at like another level, but I kind of looked to them for inspiration. So I kind of did a pretty similar thing, but they obviously, they're like the Tom Brady of what they do. But I basically did that, and so what I found was I'd go there and I'd still be unhappy because my mental software from being in the city was still too ingrained into my brain. So I was struggling to just let go and enjoy it. That was like another thing that I realized. But I understood that I had to go do that to figure out how to enjoy it. So that was another component, okay? Now, another component that I realized was it's really just hard to go plan your dream life. Like, we keep bumping that horizon forward of our dream life, but even to plan that out, it's a combination of, first of all, getting your business on point to the point that you can go on the road and go do what you want to do. You got to figure that out. Then you've got to figure out how to actually enjoy it. And then you've even got to figure out how to actually plan the frickin' thing. So, like if I were to say to you right now, hey, do you want to go to Oregon? Do you know where to go in Oregon? How would you find out where to go in Oregon? Would you even know where to go? I can tell you where you'd go. You'd probably go to Crater Lake. You'd go to Eagle Creek. You'd go to Samuel Boardman. You'd go to Cannon Beach, Multnomah Falls, right? Just like a couple simple things that you could go and do. But where do you even find out where that stuff is? Do you go to a travel agent? How do you figure it out? How do you figure out what to wear? The weather and the climate is different everywhere. Where do you get the right hiking boots? Where do you get the right skis if you want to go skiing? How do you go skiing? How does it work? How do you get into windsurfing? How do you get into parachuting? How do you get into boating? How do you get into scuba diving? Right? So it's one of these things where we're in personal growth and we have this vision for how to build a dream life, but there's all these different components, right? One of them is like what Chelsea Kawhi was saying. I should really figure out her real name, but anyway, could you find out her real name? I don't know if I want to keep calling her Chelsea Kawhi, but anyway. So it's one of these things where, first of all, you've got what Chelsea was talking about, where you have these kind of granular moments of life, and even though she's living a perfect life, she's still unhappy, right? So it's like being in your sort of dream life kind of forces you to confront that. Like, why is it that, I'm stressed while I'm on the road and I'm not having those granular moments? Or another one that it looks like she dealt with, and I've had other people in my life that have dealt with this, where they're not even in their own frame yet. So even though they're living their dream life, they're, maybe overly obsessed with getting the approval of the other people that are there, and then that's driving them crazy, right? So you've got to be at a point where you're an independent person, not just looking to others for validation, who are not even asking you to look at them in this way, but you're doing it to yourself because they can't fill that for you. You can only fill it for yourself. You've got to figure out how to be an independent person. You've got to figure out how to enjoy those granular moments of life. You've got to figure out how to get the money down and build the machine so that you can afford to do it or be a minimalist. Then you've got to figure out, where to go and how to do it. And then there's all of these logistical things that you have to figure out as far as living your dream life. And so this is what I've been encouraging people to do, and I'm encouraging you to do, which is to start to think about what your dream life looks like, but realize for most of us, this concept of a dream life is just this weird thing that's never going to actually happen. That's kind of what Andre was saying was, when does it start? When does the awesome life start? Can we start now? When does life start? Can we start now? When does it start? Because let's be honest, right? If you're working some kind of a 9 to 5, it probably completely sucks, right? it probably totally sucks. If you haven't gotten better with social skills and dating, your dating life or the people that you're dating, it probably sucks. If you haven't got your energy down and your basic health down, it probably sucks. If you haven't got your mental health down, it probably sucks. So there's all of these, like you have this vision, like someday I'm going to do this and that. You're basically in a freaking trap that is so hard to get out of, almost nobody ever will. And even in my own case, I built a freaking giant jail and a cage within the trap. I built basically a golden jail. And then from there, even realizing that that was not really satisfying for myself, I had to break out of the golden jail, and I had to get to the point that I was willing to sacrifice everything to go and do it. I was like, man, I don't care what I lose. I'm just going to go do this because I don't want to live like this anymore. I took no satisfaction out of how it was that I was living. I just didn't find it to be satisfying. It was numbing to me to just sit in Los Angeles and like go to restaurants, do parties, hook up, and date people and watch movies and do seminars. Like I just did that for 2 decades. I took that to the highest level that I could, and I just didn't want it anymore. I still felt that I was inside the box. I wanted to know what it felt like to be in the deepest parts of nature, you know, not talking to God like some weird person having a hallucination, which is weird and creepy, but what it means to talk to God in the most subtle of ways, being deep in God's creation, in nature, deeply present to the moment, out of this sort of dopamine jail, right? Because that's really the biggest problem, I think, as far as, you know, modern, like the single biggest problem that I see in modern society, just saying hi to everybody on Instagram here, the single biggest problem that I see in modern society is that we're basically in a dopamine jail. And what you want to do is you kind of want to convert that to being present, if that makes any sense, okay? So you want to get out of this weird jail where you're seeking out dopamine hits, and you want to get yourself into a mode where you're getting deeply, deeply present. And that's typically going to happen in nature. It's typically going to happen outside of the city. You know, those are the kind of experiences you have on a ski hill, way deep up in the mountains in Colorado or Utah or Jackson Hole or something. That's not the kind of experience that you have when you're like the most popular person at a party or things like that. You're just not going to have those kind of experiences, okay? Because you're just going to be getting dopamine and so on and so forth. You're going to be getting validation, you're going to be getting money and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a funny thing. First you've got to build the system of getting money, getting the dating, being, you know, the best version of yourself, et cetera, but then you realize that you've still just built yourself a jail, okay? So what you're seeing here is that there's multiple levels to this jail. Like what Chelsea was talking about, Chelsea was saying that she was in these, you know, these beautiful trips, but then she didn't enjoy the granular moments. She's also probably deeply, deeply in Sam's frame, chasing his validation all the time, and didn't feel in her own frame. I'm just guessing, but that's just what I've seen in my own experiences. Can't speak for her. Could have been the opposite for all we know. Total speculation. But basically what happens is that she's got to figure out how to get in her own frame. She's got to figure out how to enjoy the granular moments. She's got to pause, right? Then you get it to where then you build that up. You build up the money. You build up the business. You build up the resources. But then you realize that you probably built a trap for yourself there. Then you've got to say, okay, well, how do I get it to where I can only run the business a couple months a year and then I can go do what I want to do? That's good. You break that trap. But then you get out to these places and you carry those habits of negativity with you into those places. But the thing is, how do you figure out how to break that? You figure out how to break that by going on those trips and living life and then seeing where you're messing up, seeing where you're being negative, seeing where you're being a weirdo, seeing where you're being toxic. And then you kind of dissect that. Okay, well, why am I behaving like that? Why can't I enjoy it more? Then you've got to figure out all the logistical puzzles. How do I even logistically figure out how to have fun or figure out how to have all these different adventures? So then you've got to figure out that. And then at that point, once you've done all that, there's other levels to it. You know why? Because now all of a sudden, you know, you've gone all around the country and you've done all this outdoor stuff, but then you realize, you know, this is just another transient experience. This is just, you know, yeah, I'm present, I'm in nature, but is that the ultimate version of an experience? Then you say to yourself, you know what, maybe I want to go back and build my business a little bit. So even in my own case right now, I've been back at home, I'm getting back in shape, I'm rebuilding the business to a much higher level. So then, you know, it's kind of like these different layers of your own evolution. And like a snake, you kind of keep shedding your skin as you continue to grow. So these are the kind of conversations that I just don't see happening in personal growth, because I feel like a lot of personal growth sessions is like and I'm a guru, I guess myself, so I'm guilty of this too, but it's like some guru at the front of a room. Everybody's jumping around being like, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be happy, yada, yada, yada. But how many people there are actually going to break out of the trap? What does that actually look like? And so that's really what it is that I'm trying to relay to you here, is that you've got to be looking like for myself, breaking out of the trap. And really, I feel like I'm kind of still in the process myself of breaking out of all these different traps, but you've got to kind of view it almost like a Neo in the Matrix, and you've got to desire freedom at such a high level that you want to break out of those traps at such a high level. And so what you've got to keep doing is seeing what it is that's holding you back, and then you've got to keep powering through them. And then I think ultimately, the biggest thing that winds up becoming a trap is even just the world itself, even the ego itself. And that's where a lot of things like Christianity comes in, or Eastern philosophy comes in, and, the trap, of the spirit just being trapped in the body or being trapped in the ego, and then shifting your own awareness into operating through the soul. So there's a number of different sort of matrices here that we have to break out of. And I think the general mode that we want to have is that if you're somebody who's committed to a deep sense of freedom, whether you're Chelsea, who's got to get out of the trap of not being able to enjoy granular moments, or the trap of being in somebody else's frame, which is just my own speculation, I don't know that for sure, or if it's the trap of, being in a 9-to-5 job that sucks and not having money, or the trap of getting building a business, but you have to operate it all the time, or being in the trap of being in the outdoors and living a perfect idyllic life, but then still having the wrong mental software in your head, being in the trap of not even knowing how to live what it is that you want to do, but then getting addicted, then being addicted on that and not even wanting to work anymore, and then that becomes a trap when you should balance out work. So these are just a number of different traps that I've seen, and I was kind of a little bit inspired by that conversation that I saw earlier with Chelsea and Andre, so I just thought that I would do a quick little commentary on that discussion. I've actually been on the road now for a minute. Beard's getting a little crazy. I'm going to be getting a haircut probably tomorrow. I'm going to try to take a couple days off because I've been on the road for about a month, so I'm kind of like, I feel like I've had my face kicked in. But I just want to say hi to everybody. So I just want to do a quick live, say what's up to y'all. Thank y'all for being on here. Great turnout. Really appreciate it. I'll see you in San Diego. I'll see you in Los Angeles coming up. Make sure that you get into selfhelpfreetour.com. We've also got events coming all over the country. And likewise, I'd recommend that you fly in, especially for the LA one. But either way, this one right here, Higher Purpose Program, is also the very, very best epiphanies from the event that I can't post here. So make sure that you get in here. If there's 10,000 people that watch this, there needs to be 10,000 people inside Higher Purpose Program. You need to be inside there. It's going to completely blow your mind. It's going to completely change your life. Thank you guys for being on here on this live. How long did we run? How long was this one? It was about 37 minutes. What I'll do is I'll wrap up another 2.5 minutes with questions. So any questions that you have about this topic, I'm not going to answer anything off this topic most likely, but anything about this topic, you can just hit me up. And then I'm actually going to go head out to the spa. I'm going to do a little chiropractor, head out to the spa, try to relax a little bit before this event because it's going to be a pretty crazy one. So anything that you got for me, just ask, and then I will hit you up, okay? But give me something smart, something I can chew into. Okay, guys? Okay, so in your personal experience, do you think it's possible to run out of energy, run out the energy of fear, and live in the energy field of unconditional love? Well, I mean, look, I like the idea of coming from love. I do. But I also feel like it just becomes another way to attack yourself. Like, take me right now, right? I've just been on the road for like a month. I'm exhausted. I'm a little bit cranky. Am I really coming from love right now? No, I'm coming from exhaustion and crankiness. Right? So it's like, in my best version of myself, do I transcend the exhaustion and come from love? Sure. Is that reality? No. Am I going to beat myself up for that? No. Am I going to not go do a live and touch base with y'all because I'm not in the most loving state of this exact moment? No. I'm going to do the best that I have with what it is that I have, and that's it. Okay, so it's one of these things where it's like always come from the highest vibe that you can. You're not always going to be there. You don't need to be perfect. Just keep getting better. That would be the answer that I'd give to that. Next question. How do you not get agitated when traveling and stay in a high vibe state? I'd say that I've had wins and losses with that. So I've had trips where I was cranky the whole time. Trips where I've been in beautiful, beautiful places, Sam Colder lifestyle, and miserable. And then I've also had trips where I'm super happy. So it's one of these things where what I learned from it was that you have to go and do it, okay? You have to actually go and do it and then learn from where you messed up. So for me, it was like learning about things like the logistics that were frustrating me, the organization that was frustrating me. These are things in the physical. Then there's things as far as non-resistance, like not letting it bother me so much. There was times I let myself get upset and then learning from that. But how do you learn from that? Like, do you really think that you're just going to sit, like, you really think you're just going to sit at home and you're just going to like read some psychology book and then you're going to learn to be like in this perfect mood? No, what you learn life from experience, right? Like with dating, like with social skills. You're not going to learn about dating or social skills by just sitting at home reading about it. You're going to go out to a bar or club, you're going to talk to a bunch of people, you're going to mess it up, and then you're going to do a little autopsy on where you goofed up, and then you're going to improve. So I understood that for me, living my like idyllic life was going to take me probably 2, 3, 4, 5 years to figure out. And what I found was that over time, I've been able to see the problems that I was having and make it better and better and better. So for example, I just went out to Cape Cod, we did Nantucket, we did Martha's Vineyard, and I had a great time. So it's one of those things where it was pretty frictionless, it was pretty fun, and that was built on the back of lessons from when it wasn't fun. So in the same way, if I go out to a bar or club and I had a great night, well, that's built on the back of when I messed up. If I go do public speaking and I had a great speech, that's built on the back of when I had bad speeches. So it's one of those things where living a great life is a skill set, no different than social skills, no different than public speaking, no different than lifting weights, okay? Okay, I'll answer a couple more questions. How do you feel about people staying in the same place for an extended period of time? Is it healthy or is it bad to stay in the same spot for a long period of time? I'm going to give you my opinion. My opinion is just my opinion. You can have your opinion. I'm not telling you that I'm right or you're wrong. I'm just giving my experience. For me personally, it is death. It is spiritual death. It is you getting sucked into the matrix. I have never seen somebody who's just staying in the same place that impresses me. Most people that stay in the same place smoke weed to numb the problem. Weed is hugely popular for that exact reason. Other people drink alcohol. Then people go out and do coke, molly, mushrooms, psychedelics, so on and so forth, because their life is not a natural psychedelic. And so they experience that. Maybe they bond with their friends, get super high. It's fun and all, but what happens is that demotivates them from actually going out and really living life. I also think that it gets you... it takes you away from your creativity. I think it is death of the soul to stay in the same place. I do not recommend it, but I do think that the periods of it make sense. And for me, myself, I got very fat, very out of shape, and very burnt down from traveling for years and years and years. So now I'm actually getting back in shape. I think my arms are just shy of 16 inches now. I've lost some fat, but I've got a long way to go. So it's one of these things where, I still haven't been sick, but I know that my health could be better. My face is a little puffy, so on and so forth. So it's one of these things where, for the sake of the business, for the sake of my health, so on and so forth, probably make a lot of sense for me not to be on the road right now. But for several years, it made sense. So it just comes in seasons and so on and so forth, right? I pushed the envelope probably a little too far. But that's how you learn, right? Owen, how do you escape the matrix? How do you get the ball rolling? I'm not going to go into an entrepreneurial tutorial in this video because we made the video about something else. But what I would say is that you should go into some of those entrepreneurship tutorials. One of the best things that you could do also would be to come to a free event. Fly into San Diego, fly into Los Angeles. We're going to cover that at these events. And likewise, what we're going to do is cover it right in here. So if you go into Higher Purpose Program, we cover things that are going to blow your mind and help you to break out of the matrix. So that's something that you should also consider doing, okay? That is a really, really, really good idea. Willie, or what Willie thinks, he says, are therapists necessary? I'm going to give you some insight that I've had on this. So I previously believed that psychiatry and therapy was probably a little bit for dorks, and that what I taught was more action-oriented. Recently, I've been digging into psychologists and stuff like that, and I realized that actually I was wrong about that. A great guy that you could look up is Sam Vatkin or something like that. He's really great. There's a number of other ones that are really great. And I saw a lot of my own pathologies and things that I was doing wrong and ways that I've been toxic to other people. And so I was able to see that by looking up therapy, also seeing some of the problems that people that have been in my life have had, and understanding how the back and forth could have affected each other. So I would say that therapy is awesome if you have the right therapist. Okay, so I'll do one last question. How about that? What is your advice on losing drive and motivation, powered by anger, scarcity, low vibration energy? When you become very dedicated to being present at the moment, keep going deeper, find motivation for presence. I would say that there is exactly what I was talking about in this video. You actually nailed it right there. For me, building up parties, best clubs, fame on social media, et cetera, me doing that, that was me driven more by dopamine. And then me getting out into nature and building my idyllic life, that was more built by presence. So what I'd recommend to you is that you should do that next step that I did. It sounds like that's what you need to do. So what you really want to do is you want to, again, build the machine that allows you to go do that, and then have that vision to go do all those beautiful things. In the meantime, if you can't afford it, that's okay. Again, higherpurposeprogram.com. Go and watch that. San Diego, LA, fly into an event, will help you for free. And then past that, you've also just got to start doing it within the budget that you have, okay? So love you guys very, very much. I've just come back from about a month on the road. Just want to say hi to you guys. I actually I was so wrecked that I tried to do a live last night. I actually stopped partway through, so I think it's the first time it ever happened. And I'm like, I'm going to gather the energy today. So I've just gathered my energy back. I'm going to go hit up the spa now, get a little bit of energy, and then San Diego is coming up. Pretty quick. It's coming up Saturday and Sunday, so I'm just going to probably rest between now and then we're going to come into San Diego, we're going to smash it, and then 2 weeks later we're going to be doing LA. That's going to be 3 full days, and we are just going to absolutely freaking smash it, okay? So it's going to be a lot of fun. So let me rest up a little bit, let me gather my strength, and kind of get centered, and I'm going to just come back and smash it for y'all. I'm really, really excited to do it. Love you guys very much. Be back more soon. Peace.